Intuitive Eating by Evelyn Tribole and Elise Resch. Chapter 4 Awakening the Intuitive Eater Stages. The journey to intuitive eating is like taking a cross country hiking trip. Before you even strap on your hiking boots, you want to know what to expect during your journey. While a roadmap is helpful, it doesn't describe what you'll need to be adequately prepared, such as trial conditions, climate, special sightseeing spots, what kind of clothes to wear. The purpose of this chapter is to help you understand what to expect during your journey to intuitive eating. Sometimes you'll move back and forth among the stages. If you accept that this is a normal part of the process, it will help you to keep going without feeling that you are backsliding or not making progress. Consider this scenario. You are on a hiking trail and encounter a fork in the road. This is hard to decipher with your trail map. Do you go to the left or the right? While walking, you spot something you've never seen before, like a bright caterpillar shimmering up a purple flower. You turn around, but a few steps beyond these glories of nature, you realize that you've chosen the wrong path. You turn around and go back to the fork in the road and take the other path. This was a detour, but not a waste of time. Similarly, the path to intuitive eating, you will take many turns and experiment with new thoughts and behaviors. You may even find that even making noticeable progress, you go back to old ways that are uncomfortable and unfulfilling. But like taking the wrong path in the scenic hiking trail, you'll discover that excursions into old eating patterns can be used as learning experience. Most hikers would not chide themselves for being unsure of which path to take. Instead, they'd be grateful for the discoveries of nature that a blocked path offered. It's important to be kind to yourself and appreciate the learning that comes out of the experience. This process involves coming from a place of curiosity rather than a place of judgment. So whatever you do, don't beat yourself up mentally. Intuitive eating is very different from dieting. Dieters usually get frustrated when they don't follow the diet path exactly as prescribed. We have too many seen many a chronic dieter merely take a wrong turn on one meal, be critical for that mistake, and blow the whole diet for that day or weekend or even longer. Keep in mind that the journey to intuitive eating is a process, complete with ups and downs. Unlike dieting, where the common expectation is linear progress, losing a certain amount of weight in a specific time period, the road to intuitive eating is like investing in a long-term mutual fund. Over time, there will be a return on the investment in spite of the daily fluctuations of the stock market. It is normal and expected. How ironic that we have been taught that in economics, the day-to-day changes in the stock market are normal, and seldom is there a quick get-rich fix. Yet in the multi-billion-dollar-a-year weight loss business, get thin fast is the only goal for success. We are investing, instead, in helping you bring peace with your eating life and body image. On the path to this goal, keep in mind Webster's definition of process, a continuing development involving many changes, and a particular method of doing something generally involving a number of steps of operations. As with any process, it's important to stay focused in the present and grow from the many experiences you will encounter. If, however, you focus on the end result, which for many people is weight or the amount of pounds lost, it can make you feel overwhelmed and discouraged and end up sabotaging the process. Instead, if you acknowledge small changes along the way and value the learning experiences, which can sometimes be frustrating, it will help you stay on the intuitive eating path and move forward. Once you truly become an intuitive eater, you will consistently tune into your inner wisdom and you will feel better in mind and body and spirit. At this point, we feel it is important to clarify the issue of the pursuit of weight loss. For some, your body will return to its natural weight level, which may be lower than your current weight, and remain here. To see if this applies to you, ask yourself the following questions. Have you routinely eaten beyond your comfortable fullness level? Do you routinely overeat when you get ready for your next diet, knowing that there will be a lot of foods you won't be allowed to eat on the diet? Do you overeat as a coping mechanism in difficult times or to fill up time when you're bored? Have you also been resistant to exercise? Do you only exercise when you are dieting? Do you skip meals or wait to eat until you're ravenously hungry? only to find that you overeat when you finally do eat. Do you feel guilty, either when you overeat or when you eat what you call bad food, which results in more overeating? If you answered yes to some of these questions, then it's likely that your present weight may be higher than the weight your body is meant to maintain. It is also likely that you will be able to return to your normal healthy weight as a result of this process. But remember, weight loss must be put on the back burner. If you focus on weight loss, it will interfere with your ability to make choices based on your intuitive eating signals. Once you've given up on the futility of dieting, however, you will find yourself eating far less food with a desire to experience regular movement in your life. You'll find that your body feels so much better than when your stomach isn't overfull. When your muscles are toned, your heart is fit. You will also find that as your thoughts about your eating and body begin to change, you will experience a more peaceful feeling rather than the chronic background anxiety that looms with every food choice. However, if you continue to focus on weight loss as the goal, you will get tied up in the old diet mentality thinking that does not serve you. Over the years, we have seen that our patients go through a 5-stage progression in learning how to become an intuitive eater. The following section will help you get an idea of what to expect in your own personal journey. Stage 1. Readiness, hitting diet bottom. This is where most people begin. You are painfully aware that every attempt to lose weight has ended in failure. You are tired of valuing each day based on whether the scale is up or down a pound or two, or if you overate the day before. You think and worry about food all the time. You talk the restrictive food talk. If only I didn't have to watch my weight, I could eat that, or I had two cookies, I was really bad today. At the present time, your weight might be higher than ever before, or while not greatly overweight, you lose and gain 5 or 10 pounds as frequently and rapidly as you wash your clothes, and they get dirty once again. You've lost touch with biological hunger and satiety signals. You have forgotten what you really like to eat and instead eat what you think you should eat. Your relationship with food has developed a negative tone, and you dread eating the foods you love because you're afraid it will be hard to stop. When you give in to temptations of forbidden foods, it's not unusual to overeat them because you feel guilty. Yet you sincerely vow you will never eat them again. It's not unusual to find that you eat to comfort, distract, or even numb yourself from your feelings. If that's the case, you will sense that the quality of your life has been clouded by obsessional thinking about food and by mindlessly eating. Your body image is negative. You don't like the way you look and feel in your body, and self-respect is lessened. You have learned from your own experience that dieting doesn't work. You've hit diet bottom and feel stuck, frustrated, discouraged. This stage continues until you decide that you are unhappy eating and living this way. You are ready to do something about it. Your first thoughts may veer towards finding a new diet to solve your problems, but almost immediately you realize that you just can't do that one ever again. And this is where you find yourself. Then you are ready for the process that will bring you back to eating intuitively. Stage 2. Exploration. Conscious learning and pursuit of pleasure. This is a stage of exploration and discovery. You will go through a phase of hyperconsciousness to help reacquaint yourself with your intuitive signals, hunger, taste preferences, and satiety. This stage is a lot like learning how to drive a car. For the novice driver, just getting the car out of the driveway requires a lot of conscious thinking, complete with a mental checklist. This hyperconsciousness is necessary to lock in all the steps needed to get the car out of the drive. In the same sense, you will be zooming in on details of eating that have evolved without such focused thinking, but this is necessary to reclaim the intuitive eater in you. It may seem awkward and uncomfortable, even obsessive. However, hyperconsciousness is different than obsessive thinking. Obsessive thinking is pervasive and is characterized by worry. It fills your mind during most of the day and keeps you from thinking of much else. Hyperconsciousness is more specific. It zooms in when you have a thought about food, but goes away when the eating experience is over. And just like the steps required to drive a car become autopilot for the experienced driver, intuitive eating will eventually be experienced without this initial awkwardness. You may feel that you are in a hyperconscious state much of the time during the stage. This may feel uncomfortable at first and perhaps even strange. Perhaps much of your previous eating is either mostly mindless or diet-directed. In this stage, you'll begin to make peace with food by giving yourself unconditional permission to eat. This part may feel scary, and you may choose to move slowly, within your comfort level. You will learn to get rid of guilt-induced eating and begin to discover the importance of the satisfaction factor with food. The more satisfied you are when eating, the less you think about food when you're not hungry. You will no longer be on the prowl. You will experiment with foods that you may not have eaten for a long time. This includes sorting out your true food likes and dislikes. You may even discover that you don't like the taste of some of the foods you've been dreaming of. Keep in mind that years of dieting or eating what you should only serve to disconnect you from your internal eating drive and true food preferences. You will learn to honor your hunger and recognize your body signals that indicate that many degrees of hunger. You will learn to separate these biological signals from the emotional signals that might also trigger eating. In this stage, you may find that you are eating larger quantities of foods than your body needs. It will be difficult to respect your fullness at this stage because you need time to experiment with the quantity it takes to satisfy a deprived palate. It also takes time for you to develop trust with the food again and know that it's truly okay to eat. How can you honor fullness if you are not completely sure it's okay to eat the particular food, or if you fear it won't be there tomorrow? If you have previously been gaining weight gain will usually ceases or is limited to just a few pounds. If you've been using food emotionally, you may find that you will begin to feel your feelings and may experience discomfort, sadness, or even depression at times. The bulk of your eating may be foods that are heavier in fat and sugar than you've been accustomed to, although you may have been eating large quantities of these foods secretly or with guilt. The way you eat during this stage will not be the pattern that you will establish or want for a lifetime. You will notice that your nutritional balance is off-kilter and you may not feel physically on top of things during this time. This is all normal and expected. You must let yourself go through this stage for as long as you need. Remember, you are making up for years of deprivation, negative self-talk, and guilt. You are rebuilding positive food experiences like a strand of pearls. Each food experience, like each pearl, may seem insignificant, but collectively they make a difference. Stage 3. Crystallization. In this stage, you will experience the first awakenings of the intuitive eating style that has always been part of you, but was buried under the debris of dieting. When you enter this stage, much of the exploration work from the previous stage begins to crystallize and feels like solid behavior change. Your thoughts about food are no longer obsessive. You hardly need to maintain the hyper-consciousness about eating that was originally needed. Consequently, your eating decisions don't require quite as much direct thought. Instead, you find that your food choices and responses to biological signals are mainly intuitive. You have a greater sense of trust, both in your right to choose what you really want to eat, and in fact that your biological signals are dependable. You are more comfortable with your food choices and will start to notice increased satisfaction at your meals. At this point, you honor your hunger most of the time, and it's easier to discern what you feel like eating when you're hungry. You continue to make peace with food. What feels new in this stage is that it's easier to take time out in the midst of your meal to consciously gauge how much your stomach is filling up. You will be able to take a note of your fullness and respect the presence of that signal, although you may find that you often eat beyond the fullness mark. Just like when an archer takes aim at the new target, it often requires shooting many arrows before learning how to reach the bullseye. You may still be choosing previously forbidden foods most of the time, but you will find that you don't need as much of them to satisfy you. If you've been an emotionally cued eater, you'll become quite adept at separating biological hunger signals from emotional hunger. Because of this clarity, more often than not, you will be experiencing your feelings and finding ways to comfort and distract yourself without the use of food. Remember to put weight loss on the back burner. Far more important than weight loss is the sense of well-being and empowerment that begins to take place. You won't feel helpless and hopeless anymore. You will begin to respect your body, and understand that if you're over your natural weight, it's a result of a dieting mentality rather than a lack of willpower. Stage 4. The intuitive eater awakens. By the time you reach this stage, all of the work you have been doing culminates into a comfortable, free-flowing eating style. You consistently choose what you really want to eat when you are hungry because you know that you can have more food if you choose whenever you're hungry. It's easy to stop eating when you feel comfortably full. You may begin to find that you choose healthier foods, not because you think you should, but because you feel physically better when you eat this way. The urgent need to prove to yourself that you can have previously forbidden foods will have diminished. You truly know and trust that these foods will always be there, and if you really want to eat them, you can. So they lose their alluring quality. Chocolate starts to take on the same emotional connotations as a peach. Chocolate starts to take on the same emotional connotations as a peach. You won't need to test yourself anymore, and your deprivation backlash with food will be gone. When you do choose the foods you use to restrict, you will get great pleasure and feel satisfied with a much smaller quantity than ever before, and without guilt. When you feel guilty eating a food, it takes away much of the pleasure from eating it. If coping with your feelings has been difficult for you, you will be less afraid to experience them and become more adept at sitting with them. Finding healthy alternatives to distract and comfort yourself when necessary will become natural for you. Your food talk and self-talk will be positive and non-critical. Your peace pact with food is firmly established, and you will have released any conflict or leftover guilt about food choices that you have carried around. You have stopped being angry with your body and making disrespectful comments about it. You respect it and accept that there are many different sizes and shapes in the world, and that at this point, and if it's meant to be, your body will be on its way to approaching its natural weight. Stage 5. The final stage. Treasure the pleasure. At this point, your intuitive eater has been reclaimed. You will trust your body's intuitive abilities. It will be easy to honor your hunger and respect fullness. Finally, you will feel no guilt about your food choices or quantities because you feel good about your relationship to food and treasure the pleasure that eating now gives you. You will discard unsatisfying eating situations and unappealing foods. You will want to experience eating in the most optimal of conditions and not tainted with emotional distress. You will feel an inner conviction to give up using foods to cope with emotional situations. If that has been your habit, when emotions become too overwhelming, you will find that you would much rather deal with your feelings or distract yourself occasionally from them with anything other than food. Because your eating style has become a source of pleasure rather than an affliction, you will experience nutrition and movement in a different way. The burden of exercise will be removed and exercise will begin to look enticing to you. Exercise will no longer be used as a driving force to burn more calories, rather you become committed to exercise in a way to feel better, physically and mentally. Likewise, nutrition will no longer be another mechanism to make you feel bad about the way you eat. Instead, it becomes a path to feeling as physically good and healthy as you can. When you reach the final stage, your weight will settle into what is natural for you, a place that is comfortable and appropriate for your height and body frame. If your weight is already normal, you will find that you will maintain it with no effort and will be rid of the emotional ups and downs that accompany the restriction overeating cycles. At last, you will feel empowered and protected from outside forces telling you what and how much to eat and how your body should look. You will feel free from the burden of dieting, and you will be an intuitive eater once again. These stages, when they say you can do it, these stages and the changes will occur with your eating and thoughts. They may seem impossible, or it might seem too scary. For example, the thought of giving yourself unconditional permission to eat may seem terrifying, and you might feel fear that you will never stop eating or gaining weight. The remainder of the book explains in great detail how to implement each principle, why it is needed, and the rationale behind it. You will also learn how other chronic dieters became intuitive eaters and how it changed their lives. By the time you finish reading this book, you will know that you too can become an intuitive eater and stop the madness of dieting.